Okay, welcome to our Green Book Club, and we are in Fame and Fortune, Volume 33. And in my recordings, I don't have Chapter 26, and we've been going back and forth with Veronica here and figuring it out. And it's interesting how from volume to from printing to printing, the Green Books are a little bit different. So I didn't have it in one, and that's probably where the PDF is. So I'm going to read this myself. It's a short chapter. It's chapter 26, titled Amazing. Okay? Perhaps William James was on the right track when he suggested we live immersed in a continuum of cosmic consciousness, a world mind, a little of which filters into particular brain and is experienced by the owner of that brain as his private mind or consciousness. Philosopher Henry Bergson went a little further. Mind itself is aware of everything, everywhere, without regard to space or time. But the function of our brains is to shut out most of this, to us, irrelevant knowledge, in the interest of biological efficiency. On this hypothesis, extrasensory or beyond usual or normal perception would represent a leakage into personal consciousness of some of the mental material which the educated brain abnormally excludes. That's that whole chapter. Vero, you want to you have that translation?
Yes. Ok. El capítulo es el capítulo 26, se llama Asombroso y dice, tal vez William James estaba en el camino correcto cuando sugirió que vivamos sumergidos en una continua conciencia cósmica, una mente mundial, un poco de lo que se filtra dentro de cada particular cerebro o conciencia. El filósofo Henry Bergson fue un poco más allá. La mente en sí misma está consciente de todo, en todo lado, sin tener en cuenta el espacio o tiempo. Pero la función de nuestros cerebros es evitar la mayor parte de esto, para nosotros conocimiento irrelevante, en el interés de la eficiencia biológica. En esta hipótesis, la percepción extrasensorial, o más allá de lo usual o normal, representarían una fuga hacia dentro de la conciencia personal de algún material mental, el cual el cerebro educado anormalmente excluye.
Gracias. Muy bien. Mucho trabajo. I know, Vero. Gracias. So when we give a little comment, let's all please pause a little bit so we can also translate. So anybody get anything out of that short bit of information?
¿Alguien gusta decir algo también en español? Lo podemos traducir.
Any comments? If we don't, we'll move on.
Si no hay comentarios, podemos seguir con el siguiente.
I would just say it's amazing the number of stimuli that we get, and then that the body is able to just pick and choose what we need for that moment. Just that's absolutely amazing to me.
And how powerful innate is, yeah.
Dice el doctor Luis que se le hace increíble cómo podemos obtener tanta información y cómo el cuerpo excluye y solamente toma cierta cantidad o ciertas cosas.
Okay, we're going to do the next one. Sound good? Okay. This one's chapter 27, and this is out from our professional reader.
Living life is a combination of spirit.
Start over.
Chapter 27, Equality. Living life is a combination of spiritual, electrical, mechanical, chemical combinations of motions. Spiritual because of source, electrical because of spiritual, mechanical because of electrical, chemical because of mechanical. All mechanical motions are because of alternate muscular contractions and relaxations, because of alternate flows of mental impulse energy from source, from brain to muscles. Alternate flows are directed and controlled by innate continuity, flow through continuity nerve to a continuity of muscular expansions at their peripheries. Without muscles, 650 of them, a human being would fail to move in parts or entirety. If muscles were removed, we would be left with skin, bones, and viscera, lifeless, motionless. Living is a spiritual abstract, electrical mental impulse abstract, mechanical movement of physical matter producing chemical substances, products and byproducts of secretory and excretory glands. Each is coordinated, each to other, each of which is essential and necessary. Could you educationally produce or reproduce any one or all, make them coordinate together and produce a living being? Innate does.
Okay. So the power of innate, the spirit, it's the mechanical creating the mechanical, creating the spiritual, the electrical, the chemical. Innate is on the job all the time. That's the spiritual nature. That's what I got from that.
Would you like me to do that in Spanish?
Forgive me, I apologize, yes.
Ok. El siguiente capítulo es el capítulo 27, se llama Igualdad. Dice, vivir la vida es una combinación de movimientos espirituales, eléctricos, mecánicos y químicos. Espiritual por el origen, eléctrico por lo espiritual, mecánico por lo eléctrico, químico por lo mecánico. Todos los movimientos mecánicos son por alternar contracciones y relajaciones musculares, por flujos alternos de impulsos de energía mental del origen, del cerebro hacia los músculos. Los flujos alternos son dirigidos y controlados por el flujo de continuidad del innato a través de un nervio de continuidad hacia una continuidad de expansiones musculares en sus periferias. Sin los músculos, 650 de ellos, un ser humano no podría moverse, en partes o en su totalidad. Si los músculos fueran extirpados, nos quedaríamos solo con piel, huesos y vísceras, sin vida, sin movimiento. Vivir es un movimiento espiritual, abstracto, impulso mental eléctrico, abstracto, mecánico, de materia física, produciendo productos químicos, sustancias y subproductos de glándulas secretoras y excretoras. Cada uno está coordinado, uno con otro, cada uno el cual es esencial y necesario. ¿Podrías tú educadamente producir o reproducir alguno de todos? ¿Hacerlos coordinar juntos y producir un ser vivo? El innato puede.
Okay, who has anything to, anybody want to mention anything or discuss a part of that? Any input?
¿Alguien quiere hacer algún comentario sobre la lectura?
You know, I'll say, you know, innate is on the job all the time, never takes a rest. The educated needs to rest. The innate is always on the job. That is the expression of God within and how important it is. And each thing is dependent on the next. The material, the next thing, just like we're saying, the physical matter, the substances, the abstract, all depend on innate, but they also depend on each other. So the material is just as important as the spiritual.
You know, I find with me sometimes in the office, it's sometimes a little bit tougher to talk about the spiritual aspect of chiropractic, even though I think that's, well, I don't know, want to say the greatest, but, you know, it's easy to talk about the the mental. It's easy to talk about the physical. It's easy to talk about the emotional. But when you start getting into, you know, how this can help people spiritually, I know sometimes I know for me, very difficult. You know, if someone were to say, give me an example, like you could say, give me an example emotionally. Well, you know, after an adjustment, people always feel so much emotionally better. They can breathe again. They think more clearly. If they came in depressed or with anxiety or anything like that just lifts. We see that. I mean, in my office, I see that, especially now, at least a couple of times a day. But if someone were to say, well, you know, Doc, give me an example of how spiritually I'm going to be better, you know, as if, you know, I went to church, I went to synagogue or whatever, like how spiritually I'm going to be better. I know it, but it's hard for me to come up with an example. You know, I could say, well, when you meditate, you do hear the voice within. You do get that wee small voice that Dr. Sid talked about. But I know for me, it's just very difficult to come up with like a concrete example of like, well, how am I going to be spiritually better after I received this adjustment today? And I'm wondering if anybody has any examples that are just not, you know, like really vague, you know, that they could say specifically how that connection is. I just find myself at a loss for words with that.
Is anybody, I'll let you go.
Yeah.
Gary. I forgive.
Okay.
Try and catch up a little bit.
Ok. Bueno, primero decía doctor Haig que el educado necesita, bueno, más bien el innato siempre está trabajando. El educado a veces necesita descansar, pero el innato siempre está haciendo su trabajo, no para. Y decía que esa sería como la expresión de Dios dentro de. Bueno, eso es lo que recuerdo de lo que decía Dr. Haig. Y el Dr. Lewis decía algo también muy interesante que dice que en su consulta él se le hace como fácil ver la parte emocional, la parte mental, la parte física. Dice que para él es fácil dar ejemplos de esas cosas a sus pacientes. Dice, si un paciente le dice, o bueno, que después de ajustar a alguien, fácilmente él puede dar un ejemplo. Después de ajustarte en la parte emocional, veo que te vas a sentir mejor, vas a poder respirar mejor. O sea, eso es fácil para él. Pero si alguien le pidiera un ejemplo de la parte espiritual, dice que él lo conoce, lo tiene la idea dentro de él, pero se le dificulta pasar esa información con un ejemplo que sea como conciso, que no sea vago. Y también hace la pregunta que si alguno de ustedes tiene un ejemplo que podría dar de ese cambio espiritual que habría con el ajuste para como poderlo pasar a los pacientes.
Does anybody have any input?
I would like to say something.
Okay.
For me, like I personally have experienced it, and it's something that I've been trying to dive deeper into. Like yesterday, we had an artistry night where about 20 or so students gathered together, and we were just expressing ourselves through the adjustment and through different connection methods. And I was using a lot of BGI work, and people look at it as very different. But on the spiritual realm, I've gotten the work done on me with osseous work as well. And what I've noticed spiritually is different than the definition of spirituality as we're taught through religion. But I noticed a deeper connection with self. So I was able to look within to those dark places that I've kept hidden, those areas that I haven't forgiven myself. And it allowed me to bring light, to bring energy, to bring awareness to those areas and begin the process of healing and to begin that spiritual evolution, like just to move forward from there. So
You just have a connection issue, Junior. So one major thing he said was gave him an awareness of a place where to forgive yourself. I mean, you just had a little internet issue there, okay?
what part did you hear up to?
I think we heard just the last few seconds we missed.
So basically, what I experienced from it was when I was getting the BGI work done and the osseous adjustments, that brought that sense of awareness back within, and I was able to heal from those past traumas, which I considered a spiritual evolution, or being able to connect myself physically back to that spirit and allow me to move forward, because that spirit being subluxated, or that energy not being integrated within my system, was holding me back from developing into the person that I wanted to be.
That's amazing. That is awesome. Vero?
De lo que pude escuchar, porque estaba un poco cortado, decía que creo que el día de ayer o en los días pasados estuvo como una reunión con otros 20 alumnos y estuvieron haciendo varios, trabajando en ajustes y demás. Él estaba haciendo mucho BGI y dice que él tal vez ve un poquito la parte espiritual un poco diferente, alejándolo de lo que es la parte de la religión, y que para él, bueno, logró como entrar dentro de él mismo a unas partes como muy profundas, decía él, como unos lugares oscuros, y trabajar en ellos, dejar entrar un poco de luz en ellos, como ciertas cosas que tenía tal vez arraigadas de ciertos, creo que mencionó la palabra como traumas anteriores, y bueno, eso es lo que, la conexión que logró hacer, ¿no? Y trabajar en ello.
And I'm going to just give a plug. We're doing BGI 1 in Melbourne, Florida, November 13th, 14th, and 15th, 2020.
I'm sorry. I've been in practice a long time, but I don't know what that is.
Biogeometric integration.
Okay.
Finding the subluxations very specifically. Beautiful work. November 13th, 14th, and 15th at my office. If people are coming from other countries or other states or what have you, I'll find a place for you to stay.
Dice
That was
que
my
está
little plug for that.
haciendo, por si acaso, está viendo cómo se van a juntar a ver algo de BGI el 3, which dates, I'm sorry?
Florida?
In Melbourne, Florida.
Melbourne, Florida.
November?
November 13, 14, 15.
Ok, el 13, 14 y 15 de noviembre.
Okay. Anybody else have some input on Lewis's question?
Just to clarify, BGI is just it's a way of analysis of the body and looking at the sacred geometry, and it's a series of light touches that allow the body to integrate those stored energy potentials. So it's a way of being able to tap in. It's just a different analysis tool, or a different way to access the stored energy potentials that lie within the body, and allow the body to do its own work to integrate. The same way that we put an impulse into someone's system, it's not that we're correcting that subluxation, the body's healing. So it's just a different approach to facilitate the healing of that person's system.
Bingo.
So would you say that's a tonal technique?
Yes.
It's a tonal technique, yeah.
Okay.
Which
And then,
we're all tonal techniques, because that's what chiropractic was founded on, but yeah.
right.
Están explicando un poco de lo que es BGI. Decía que es una técnica tonal y que está basada, creo, como en algo de la geometría del sacro, y como pequeños o ligeros toques, y bueno, que es más que nada que hace que el cuerpo haga como el resto del trabajo.
So getting back to the connection with the material and the spiritual, the connection of, if we want, sometimes I break it down a little bit with the people, but only in two ways. I say educated and innate, and innate is the spiritual. I don't go into universal and God. Some people get complicated with those terms, but I say innate is the expression of God in our body. It runs the show. The material stuff digests our food. Could you imagine the time it would take to digest your breakfast this morning if you had to think about it in our educated? we'd still be thinking about it by the time we're going to bed at night and waking up the next day. The spirit is on the job, and I want to make sure that connection is 100%. And that's an initial communication. Later, I start talking about a greater connection, or when we're disconnected from the earthly, or that becomes our life, what we're living in now. Then that leads into a greater spiritual connection to the earthly stuff that holds us back. That's where we get the symptom. All of that stuff is from the outside, all this worldly stuff. That keeps us from being connected to our spiritual source. Once we're able to leave that stuff behind us, the adjustment allows that energy to dissipate so we can be truly ourself. And that self is a spiritual being. That takes the spiritual person to get that, usually. It's not just usually just somebody that doesn't care about that. Normally they wouldn't ask a deeper question anyway. But that's what I do. Anybody else? Or Vero, excuse me.
Maybe if you can give me once again some specific points, because I might miss some.
Could you imagine thinking with our educated to digest our food?
Bueno, daba un ejemplo de, bueno, como nuevamente el innato siempre está haciendo su trabajo, ¿no? Inclusive cuando no lo estamos nosotros pensando, y da el ejemplo de, imagínense cuánto tiempo tomaría si nosotros tuviéramos que pensar todo el proceso para que podamos digerir nuestra comida. Hace el ejemplo de cómo se hace por el innato tan sencillo y tan rápido. En cambio, si lo hiciéramos nosotros, dice, comeríamos ahora y el día de mañana por la mañana todavía estaríamos trabajando en eso.
Did you get most of that? I just gave it.
Of your example, yes.
Okay, good.
Then you said other things, I think.
I'm going to start talking in a little more pause, like I do when we do in Mexico. Okay, I apologize for that.
Thank you.
And then really going back to saying that the connection of that inner self, the spirit is as important as the material. We want to make sure they're in harmony. That's another thing I say too.
Dice que lo importante es que lo espiritual esté en conexión con lo material. Tiene que haber una armonía entre eso.
And then boca abajo.
Y luego ya vamos al ajuste boca abajo.
Whenever I'm doing a talk, in the olden days, it used to be with an overhead projector, but now it's more electronic stuff. But what I always talk about is that, whenever you're in the medical model, everything that they give you, everything that they tell you is it creates a subluxation. And it's just like, and I pull the plug on my electronic, whatever it is, and I say, and this is what that is. And then there's just dead silence. And then I say, and the adjustment plugs you back in to your power source.
That's great. Vero, did you get that?
Yes. Bueno, dice que anteriormente él cuando hacía sus presentaciones siempre era, digamos, con un proyector, ¿no? Dice que estando en el campo médico es algo así. Les explica como si estaba conectado. I'm sorry, Craig, could you repeat the example just one more time?
Yeah, I unplugged the media or computer, or like the olden days, it was an overhead projector. So I just unplug it and say, these are what whenever you take drugs, it turns that off. Whenever you're getting surgery, it turns that off. And whenever you're thinking wrong, it turns that off. And I would pull the plug out of whatever my media is and say, this is what you're doing. This is what a subluxation does to you. It unplugs you.
Get it.
And then just wait for about a minute.
El ejemplo de, thank you, Craig.
Yeah, and then plug it back in and say, this is what the adjustment does. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Hace el ejemplo de que cuando está explicándolo, bueno, tiene, digamos, lo que sea que esté proyectando, está todo conectado, y hace el ejemplo de cuando uno, bueno, desconecta el proyector, se quita la información, y dice, esto es lo que pasa cuando pasa la subluxación, cuando uno toma drogas, con cirugías, con pensamientos negativos. Y bueno, ¿qué pasa cuando se realiza el ajuste? Y pone el ejemplo de que, bueno, lo vuelve a conectar, o sea, hace una reconexión.
That's a great example of the subluxation. Making simple. You know, Craig had it just be simple, right? How do you say that? Simplicado?
Dice que esa es una gran, una manera muy buena de ponerlo en una manera simple o simplificarlo.
Yes.
Anybody else have any input? Anybody else want to share something that they got from or inspiration from the reading or just from the conversation?
¿Alguien más quiere dar algún ejemplo, algún punto de vista, ya sea de la lectura o de la conversación?
So, you know, when we talk about, if you notice, much of B.J. Palmer's writing is about educated and innate, leaving the educated behind and focusing on the innate or spiritual side. I'll let you go.
Dice que mucho de lo que habla BJ es sobre dejar un momento el educado y enfocarse en el innato.
In volume 18 and only a couple of books does he talk about technique. It's very easy for us to talk to be technique, but filosofía es muy importante.
Bueno, dice que solamente en el capítulo 18 habla de la técnica y nosotros pensamos que todo es técnica, pero realmente la filosofía es muy importante.
And some of you weren't here in the earlier readings. We're on chapter 27, 28. He talks about just the previous of someone falling down the stairs or getting hit in the head with a shovel and their hearing comes back or their disease goes away because accidentally the subluxation was removed. Don't hit people with shovels, please.
Bueno, habla de que para los que no estuvieron tal vez en lecturas de capítulos anteriores estaba un ejemplo donde una persona se cae y se golpea, se cae de las escaleras y se golpea y accidentalmente corrige una subluxación. Dice que, bueno, esto a través del golpe, ¿no? Del accidente, pero dice que no anden golpeando a la gente por ahí.
That's why understanding the importance of a clear connection of innate to body, above, down, inside out. The clarity of understanding our principles is so important with the practice of chiropractic.
Es la importancia de la conexión del innato con el educado, de lo de adentro hacia afuera, y de arriba abajo, adentro afuera, ¿no? Y bueno, la importancia de tener y escuchar siempre al innato.
Anybody have anything to say or add? In Spanish, maybe?
Bueno, yo creo que es realmente algo muy difícil. Creo que sí, exactamente, no sé anteriormente, pero pues en la escuela sí, vemos principalmente todo lo demás menos la parte de la filosofía y como lo habíamos comentado antes, vemos filosofía, pero lo llevamos más como historia, como algo que ya pasó. Pero teniendo este tipo de pláticas con tal vez personas que ya obviamente tienen mucho más conocimiento y experiencia, nos ayuda mucho a los que apenas vamos comenzando. I was saying that yes, in school we have everything but philosophy, because in philosophy we only see like it was history, like something that was, but maybe we don't use it that much anymore. And I think these type of conversations and meetings helps us a lot to the new chiropractors to get any information, any input, your experience from the people that have already gone through this path for several years. Thank you, everyone.
And having the docs that have been in practice, we have students from Spain, Mexico, wherever, Florida, and the schools in the U.S. And I really appreciate everybody being here because we all grow from it.
It
Oh,
helps
absolutely.
it helps old chiropractors too.
Yeah.
And that's,
Well, the way I look at it is too that because, you know, I just got back into DE recently, and, you know, it's the same scenario. We get away from chiropractors that have the light mind and the like thoughts, and we start to subluxate our own minds because we're not hearing the truth. And I know, like with this pandemic, it was affecting me. And I think it was my subluxations that was causing my numbers to fall. Because once I got back connected into DE and started, you know, doing my daily routines the way I was supposed to and doing all those things that, you know, would helps build you up, my numbers started coming right back up. You know, so that was just my own subluxations. So you don't have to be a student to fall into that stuff, or, you know, because you're an old timer, you're not immune to it.
Bueno, hacen referencia el doctor Luis y Craig que no solamente tal vez los estudiantes que no estamos tan experimentados, dice que también ellos que ya tienen un tiempo, también les cuesta, y también, bueno, pone el ejemplo que tal vez estaba como un poco desconectado sus propias subluxaciones, pero en el momento en el que volvió a reconectarse con eso y trabajó en ello, dice, volví a mi práctica, pues nuevamente empecé o mis números creo que le escuché que empezaron nuevamente a elevarse.
so that's, you know, Craig, thank you for that. Louis, thank you so much, because all of the old guys, when they talk about practice building, they say, read your green books. It's there. The energy is there. Like I said, he didn't talk about technique. He talked about get away from the educated, because there are a lot of people pulling your plug on your overhead. There's a lot of people, but you just have to be one bit stronger to say, I'm staying plugged in. That's it, right?
Dice que sí, que también nuevamente los quiroprácticos que ya tienen tiempo, bueno, les puede suceder esto, ¿no? Y dices que hay tanta gente que están jalando tu cable, ¿no? Como para desconectarte. Es mucha la gente y tienes que ser un poquito más fuerte que eso para poder mantenerte conectado.
Anybody have anything else? So I have an announcement. I just got word it's official. I'll be in Mexico for the big idea in November. Yoo-hoo!
That's
Very
awesome.
excited. And so I love and appreciate everybody. And any questions, or if you feel you need some clarity privately, you just send me a message. I think we're all connected in some way. Or connect with friends, get together like Junior and his crew. He has been a leader at Palmer, Florida, and connecting students, keeping them jamming on philosophy and technique and getting them solid for service. I mean, a true wolf, man. I love it. And so we are all stronger together. I love you and I appreciate you. And today I got a lot out of this. Okay? Should I let you catch up and then we'll give it, go ahead.
Ok, un gran anuncio que tiene Haig es que ya oficialmente va a estar aquí en México en noviembre para la gran idea. Y bueno, que si tienen alguna duda o algo, ya sea lo pueden contactar a él o podemos igual comunicarnos entre nosotros. Dice que, bueno, sí, perdón, que un ejemplo es Junior, que le está haciendo su trabajo o está haciendo trabajo, servicio en Palmer, en Florida, en la universidad con varios estudiantes y está ayudando a hacer la conexión entre lo que es la técnica y la filosofía. Gracias, Junior.
I want to say one more thing, and we'll close, is that you all are the 1%. You are the top of the game. All the rest of the people are watching cartoons today, and you're taking charge of your practice and your life and to serve people better.
Dice que quiere decir una cosa más, que todos ustedes los que están ahorita, los que están viendo, son el 1%. Son los que están tomando cargo de su práctica. Todo el resto está tal vez viendo caricaturas y bueno, somos los que vamos a poder servir a las demás personas.
So every Saturday we're going to do this, okay? We've been doing it now for about a month, I think, and my code is 33 1895 1895. It's not hard to remember. I'll try and put up the links, but we're going to do Saturday at 11 o'clock Eastern time, 10 a.m. Mexico time, and it's 1700 hours in Spain time.
There you go.
Okay?
Ok, vamos a estar haciendo esto cada sábado, ya llevamos aproximadamente un mes. Él lo publica siempre en su Facebook, ahí va a estar también el link para las videollamadas, quien guste acompañarnos. Es 11 de la mañana tiempo del este, 10 de la mañana hora de México y las 17 horas tiempo de España.
And one more shout out to Veronica. I thank you. You do such a great job every time, and you are amazing. And just she has a beautiful voice, doesn't she? Thank you very much. Muchas gracias. Okay. Ciao, everybody. And I'm going to post this video, okay?
Excellent.
Let's see.